Before I let the slideshow run, I thought I'd give a short introduction. While doing research for my video about pulp magazines, I became really interested in futurism in the 1920s. In case you don't know what futurism is, it's people's vision of what the future would look like from the perspective of their own time. Because we live in the time that we do, this past futurism is called retrofuturism. The 1920s style of futurism is interesting to me because it's right between the two most common forms of futurism we see today, steampunk and atompunk. I'm sure many of you already know what these are, but I'll explain anyway. Steampunk is a retrofuturistic style based on Victorian futurism, when people believed that machines would be operated with a complex series of mechanical gears. There's no electricity, everything is mechanical in some way. Atompunk, on the other hand, is based on 1950s and 1960s predictions. Everything is round, sleek, and powered by atomic energy, so think of the Jetsons or the Fallout game series. This gives the 1920s a rather unique position between these two. But if you've watched my video on pulp magazines, you'll know that science fiction definitely existed during the 20s, and there were stories, novels, and films that used sci-fi elements. Being in the modern age, futurism of the 1920s leans more towards atompunk, but it also has a somewhat dieselpunk flavor. Dieselpunk, by the way, is a roughly 1940s retrofuturism. I know I've made this comparison before, but I'll do it again. In America, the 1920s were similar to the 1950s in that they took place in the immediate aftermath of a massive, destructive war, and both carried an air of optimism for the future. The only difference is that science fiction was not as mainstream in the 20s as it was in the 50s, so it didn't quite fully develop a unique look that permeated society. But I found their ideas about the future to be fascinating, especially how they thought that dirigibles, also known as zeppelins, were the air travel of the future. This is a pretty unique characteristic of futurism in this period, because they had only rose to prominence after the Victorian era and their popularity ended in the 1930s. So for the following photos, I scoured a magazine called Science and Invention that was published throughout the 1920s. This magazine predictably focused on the latest developments in science, as well as the most recent patents and inventions, but it also occasionally delved into futurism. This was largely due to the input of its editor Hugo Gernsback, who was also the first editor of the science fiction pulp magazine Amazing Stories, which I talked about in my earlier video. Gernsback was also helped by illustrator Frank R. Paul, who created the most memorable science fiction covers in pop art of that time, and I will definitely make another video just for his illustrations. While browsing the issues of this magazine, I thought many of the pictures were interesting, so I thought I'd just make a short little video with them. If you're interested in this kind of thing, I got these from digital copies online at AmericanRadioHistory.com, which has a huge selection of various vintage magazines freely available to view. I'll leave a link in the description. Well anyways, for now, here are just a collection of illustrations from Science and Invention.
My granddad and mammy loved to cello's plaintive moan. Father was an organist, how he ate up Chopin and Liszt. I guess I am just the music black sheep of my family. Classics don't mean a thing at all. Give me a hot band in a hall. A wicked saxophone could make me roam from home to hear it blow. The blues have got me, the blues have got me. I don't know what it has, but what it has me on the go. The blues have got me, the blues have got me. Classics are great for the highbrows who crave for it. It's not in my line. Jazz up to date, now I'll say I'm a slave for it. The kind that makes a horse throw away is hey, hey. A baby grand is grand, but grander is a low-down instrument. A trombone kills me, a banjo kills me, and when a cornet goes ooh-wah, I'm in for the night. Good night. I like my music hard, I'm not pretending maybe. I'm what you call a syncopatriotic baby. I'm off my nut about to strut, the blues have got me now. A wicked saxophone could make me warm. The blues have got me. I don't know what it has, but the blues have got me. Classics are great for the highbrows who crave for it. It's not in my line. Jazz up to date, now I'll state I'm a slave to it. The kind that makes a horse throw away its hey, hey. Oh, baby, grand is grand, but a goes I'm in for the night. Good night. I like my music hard, I'm not pretending maybe I'm what you call a simple patriotic baby. I'm hoping not about the stress and blues have got me now.
Oh, you railway station. Oh, you Pullman train. Here's my reservation for my destination, far beyond the western plains, to see my home in Pasadena, home where grass is greener, where honeybees hum melodies, and orange trees scent the breeze. I'm gonna be a home sweet homer, and there I'll settle down beneath the palm, in someone's arms, in a Pasadena town. Where honeybees hum melodies and orange trees scent the breeze. Beneath the palm, in someone's arms, in a Pasadena town. Home in Pasadena. Home, where grass is greener, where the little bees, they hum melodies, and orange trees scent the breeze. I'm gonna be a little home sweet homer, and right there I'll settle down beneath the palm, in someone's arms, in a Pasadena town. Johnny was bashful and shy. Nobody understood why. Mary loved him. All the other girls passed him by. Everyone wanted to know how she could pick such a beau with a twinkle in her eye. She made this reply: he's not so good in a crowd, but when you get him alone, you'd be surprised. He isn't much at a dance, but when he's taking you home, you'd be surprised. He doesn't look like much of a lover, but you can't judge a book by its cover. He's got the face of an angel, but there's a devil in his eye. He's such a delicate thing, but when he's starting to squeeze, you'd be surprised. He doesn't look very strong, but when you sit on his knees, you'd be surprised. At a party or at a ball, I've got to admit that he's nothing at all. But in a Morris chair, you'd be surprised. continue to praise Johnny's remarkable ways to the ladies. And you know advertising pays. Now Johnny's never alone. He has the busiest phone almost every other day. A new girl will say he's not so good in the house, but on a bench in the park, you'd be surprised. He isn't much in the light, but when he gets in the dark, you'd be surprised. I know he looks as slow as the Erie, but you don't know the half of it, dearie. He looks as cold as an Eskimo, but there's fire in his eyes. He doesn't say very much, but when he's starting to speak, you'd be surprised. He's not so good at the start, but at the end of a week, you'd be surprised. On a streetcar or in a train, you'd think he was born without any brain, but in a taxi cab, oh boy, you'd be surprised.